Hey everyone, this is David Brown with the migration update for April 28th, 2024 from the Braddock Bay Hawk Watch. I started out the day not bright and early, but rather dark and early at 5 a.m. at the Owl Woods, meeting Kim and a few other friends to get eastern whippoorwills. So we walked in to what's called the woodcock field, and we were able to get some whippoorwills to sing, and I also used the thermal monocular and was able to find a whippoorwill up in a tree. And looking around, I was able to find another heat signature up in a tree, and this turned out to be a northern saw-whet owl. Afterwards, we headed west on the parkway over to the flooded fields along Martin Road. This can be a good spot for shorebirds. This is where the American avocet was last week, and yesterday there were some good shorebirds there, including a short-billed dowitcher and a stilt sandpiper, though when we were there this morning, we only had a big flock of lesser yellowlegs, though I guess the stilt sandpiper did drop in after we left. Next, Kim and I headed over to the Braddock Bay West Spit, getting there around 6:30 a.m., and there was already a really big sharp-shinned hawk flight happening. Between 6:30 when we got there and 8 when we left, we had around 150 sharp-shinned hawks. But actually, I didn't take a photo of a single sharp-shinned hawk today, so I don't have any to share with you. But when this northern harrier flew over in perfect light, Kim told me I had to take a photo of it. We had a total of 44 species at the West Spit. I made the transition over to Braddock Bay Park and the Hawkwatch platform around 8 a.m. And looking at the weather forecast, they were talking about lots of gloomy weather and clouds and rain showers. So these were not the skies that I was expecting when I arrived in the morning. Lots of blue sky out in front of us, though there was more cloud cover behind. As we got more into the mid-morning, there were some thick clouds that rolled in, and we had some occasional periods of rain throughout the day that lasted somewhere, 15 to 30 minutes or so. So it was enough to clear out the platform as it was a steady rain, but then the rain would stop and the flight would resume. And actually towards the end of the day, it started to clear up a little bit again. Not necessarily blue sky, but just a little bit brighter. So, and we had really good southerly winds all day. It was a southwest wind at a moderate speed, maybe shifting slightly west-southwest at times, but really good winds, and that's the main thing that propelled the flight today, despite the gloomy, rainy weather. Here we have a small buteo with very pointed wings. We see brown barring underneath and a dark trailing edge to the wing that is straight, and a dark tail with a white band, although this one's a little funny looking. You don't really see the distinct white band, it's just a lot of white. But anyway, this is an adult broad-winged hawk, a species that we saw a lot of today, more than 3,000. And here's a small kettle of adult broad-winged hawks, showing you what a typical look at this species is. Again, you normally see the single white band on the tail. And here's what it looks like when you have a huge group of broad-winged hawks all gliding towards you. Here we have a shorebird with a somewhat thin bill. One of the most distinctive things is that it has a white eye ring. Overall, the bird is white underneath until you get all the way up on the upper breast and into the throat, where it's more brownish. There's some cool patterning here in the wing pit area, and we see that there's no feet or legs that trail out behind the tail. This is a solitary sandpiper. Here we have a very lanky, angular buteo with a black and white plumage. We see it's white overall, but we do have these squares in the carpal areas that are dark, as well as a dark belly. This is a light morph rough-legged hawk, one of 3 of them that we had today. Here we have another large, lanky, black and white raptor, though this one is carrying a fish. This is an osprey. Here's 2 adult bald eagles that were chasing each other around. Here we have a large dark raptor. We see a white patch in the wing here. We see a white base to the tail, and we see a somewhat small head with a golden nape. This is an immature golden eagle. Here we have a large white wading bird. We see a long yellow bill and long trailing legs where both the legs and feet are black. This is a great egret. Here we have a small raptor with very pointed wings. We should be thinking falcon, and we see a lot of dark streaking underneath. This is a merlin. Here we have another small raptor with pointed wings, and this one is light underneath with a distinctive facial pattern. This is an American kestrel. Here we have a large buteo where we see a dark belly band and dark patagial bars, but we do not see a dark trailing edge to the wing or a red tail. This is a juvenile red-tailed hawk. Here we have a large dark raptor with 3 points of white, one in the center of each wing and the base of the tail. And we see a small head with a golden nape. This is another golden eagle. And on some golden eagles, such as this one, when they have large white patches underneath, you also have some white patches on the top side of the wings. And of course, you see that large white base to the tail. And in this case, we do not see a tawny bar to the top side, so we can safely age this one as a juvenile. Here we have a large water bird. We see very thin pointed wings. We see a black head, and we see some trailing legs. This is a common loon in breeding plumage migrating north. And here's a pretty lousy photo of a really good bird. Someone spotted a bird out front, and initially we thought it might be another rough-legged hawk because we had just had a couple, and we could see a white base to the tail on the top side. But as we watched it more closely, especially as it would turn and show a little bit of the underside, we saw that it did not have the plumage of a rough-legged hawk, but rather it had dark flight feathers and thus was a Swainson's hawk. And the Swainson's hawk actually flew in and perched, so we put the rare bird alert out and some people got to come and see it. And then it switched to a different tree, and then eventually it dropped down out of sight, and some people went over to Burger Park, which is the direction it was seen, and it was able to be refound. So after I left the Hawkwatch, I went over to Burger Park and we found the Swainson's hawk perched in a tree. And we even got to see it fly as it switched to a different perch. Swainson's hawks are a western species of hawk, and normally we might get one per season, although some years we don't get any, and this is actually my first time getting more than one for a season. We had a dark morph Swainson's hawk a few weeks ago. Looking at the photo here, you can see Swainson's hawks are buteos, but they have really long, slender wings, and they come in different color morphs. In this case, this is a juvenile light morph, so it has a light colored head and a lot of light on the underside with some streaking. But the main thing you're looking for in flight is that it has a two-toned appearance, with all of the covered feathers here being lighter, but the actual flight feathers of the wing, that's the secondaries and the primaries, those are dark. So it's sort of the trailing edge to the wing that's dark, and the leading edge is white. It's a very distinctive pattern. You can kind of see it in the photo here. But anyway, that along with the overall really lanky shape lets us know that this is a Swainson's hawk. And whenever we're looking through big groups of broad-winged hawks, we're always looking for those buteos that are just slightly bigger with those longer pointed wings. Those would be the Swainson's hawks. Today at the Hawkwatch, we had 71 species. I got 8 new species for the season today, which were eastern whippoorwill, house wren, wood thrush, eastern kingbird, common yellowthroat, solitary sandpiper, great crested flycatcher, and ring-necked pheasant. Taking a look at the hawk count report for our migrant raptor totals, today we had 144 turkey vultures, 8 ospreys, 39 bald eagles, 43 northern harriers, 670 sharp-shinned hawks, 2 Cooper's hawks, and we had the buteo sweep with 1 red-shouldered hawk, 3,608 broad-winged hawks, 24 red-tailed hawks, 3 rough-legged hawks, and 1 Swainson's hawk. And we had 3 golden eagles. And we had the falcon trifecta today with 13 kestrels, 1 merlin, and 1 peregrine, for a grand total of 4,561 migrating raptors today. That brings the April total to 43,648, and the season total to 51,768. Taking a look at the forecast for tomorrow, it's looking cloudy with a high around 50 and winds east-northeast at 10 to 20 miles per hour. That's a less favorable wind direction. I'd expect light migration. For Tuesday, we're looking at cloudy skies with occasional showers, a high in the upper 50s, and light northerly winds. Again, expect light migration. And for Wednesday, intervals of clouds and sun with a high in the upper 50s and light north-northwest winds. Maybe slightly better, but not looking like a great day. Expect light to moderate migration. All right, what a great full day of birding. I got up at 4:30 a.m. and was at the Owl Woods at 5. Really nice to get the eastern whippoorwills and to pick out a saw-whet owl and then get a couple first of years and then travel down the parkway doing some shorebirds, getting to the West Spit and having a huge Sharpie flight pickup, having to rush over to the Hawkwatch, spending many, many hours at the Hawkwatch. Today was the last day of the Bird of Prey Days weekend, so there were a lot of visitors that came out, and despite having a little bit of rain, we had really good winds all day and a really big flight. This was the third highest day we've had so far this season, and this was probably the most enjoyable. Just really good views of the birds, and they were coming through low and just really steady all day. So I think a lot of people got to enjoy a really nice hawk flight today, and then the Swainson's hawk at the end of the day was just the cherry on top, and then getting to rush over to Burger Park to try to get a better look at it. So ended up getting home late and having to get through everything. So hopefully I'll be able to get to bed at a reasonable time and get out again early tomorrow morning, because as we get to the end of April and beginning of May, we're starting to get a lot of songbirds migrating. The warblers are starting to show up, and like I said, I got 8 new species for the season today. So there's a lot of things that will be arriving in the next week or two. So even if it's slow at the Hawkwatch for the next few days, there should be a lot of new birds around, warblers and other things to go out and find. So get out and do some birding. And it seems like that Swainson's hawk was settling into Burger Park for the night. So maybe that will be seen again tomorrow morning. I hope you're able to join us soon out at the Braddock Bay Hawk Watch. From Lyco Birds, this is David Brown. Thanks for watching.